indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Brzezowski, absent. Clark, absent. Fredericks,
Here.
Height,
Here.
Lindeman,
Here.
Nedrow,
Here.
Snyder, absent. Thorne,
Here.
Weber.
Here.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Brzezowski and Snyder. They informed us they wouldn't be able to make it tonight.
Okay, motion by Lindman, second
Second by
by
Thorne.
Thorne. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Also would like to hear a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, motion by Weber, second by Lindman. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Agenda is approved. Also would like to hear a motion to approve the minutes from January 25th. I didn't see anything in there.
Yeah, they
that
look fine to
looked-
me. I'll motion that we approve the minutes of January 25th.
Okay, support? Okay,
Support.
okay, motion by Lindman, second by Weber. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. We have no public hearing. Correspondence, you guys got the Michigan Planner. This is a good thing to go through, and I love the road commission's report too. Everybody's got that. Call the public. Is everybody here for the discussion? Should I have a call to the public? I don't know.
Well, I'll motion we open and call to the public. See
Okay.
if we have any public who wants to speak.
Second.
Okay, motion by Lindman, second by Thorne, to open to the public. Anyone in the public that has something that they would like to say, please stand and state your name and address. And try and keep it under 5 minutes if possible.
Is this just for non-agenda items?
Yeah, just in case we had any. Okay, doesn't seem we have any, so I'll motion we close the call to public.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Lindman, second by Thorne. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion public is passed. That brings us to new business item, discussion regarding 2355 South Commerce, property there. And that's not tabled, but I'll,
It's just new business, so.
Yep. So if anybody would like to speak, same thing, just state your name and address and try and keep it under 5 minutes if possible.
Can I just,
Yes.
for clarification's sake, and it's for you, I guess, because I think you all know, this is just a discussion, this is not a formal application. So the applicant just wanted to come and talk with you and get your input and thoughts on what they're.
Thank you for
Thanks,
reminding
Al.
us, Sally, yeah.
So they're not bound and we're not bound.
Correct, and you're not making any decisions tonight.
This is where they would come up and speak if they want to, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Clint Kesto, and I represent Mr. KG at the property. In this discussion, I'm just going to pass out, essentially, it's like a summary, and I want to apologize. When I printed these out, I looked at the front page looked good, but then as I flipped through, some of the side is cut off. It's not my fault, it's the printer's fault.
Of course.
So it's just a summary, I think, of the previous application,
Thank you.
and just to have a conversation and an overview of where we were. Yeah, there you go. Where we were and kind of where we left off. I think I mentioned this one of the last hearings about the request, and this came after I spoke with Mr. Gillum and Ms. Elmiger. Did I say that right? And we had a conversation about how we can figure out what to do with this property at 2355 South Commerce. And it's a unique property, as you all know, and at some point in the history of the village, it was zoned from, and I don't know what it was zoned, I assume some type of commercial use, into an office use. And it has been vacant for many years. We moved in Commerce in 2005, and I can't remember if a bank was there at the time or not, but certainly shortly after, it was vacant. And my client, Mr. KG, purchased it, and he paid a good amount for it. And he had some conversations with the village. There was nothing promised, just you can come to the planning commission with your thoughts on the property. No guarantees, but go and approach them and see if you can get something approved. He had submitted an application prior to me being involved. It had gone through the planning commission. I think it was recommended to not rezone, whether that be denial or whatnot, but not to rezone. Went to the board. The board had wanted some type of traffic study. There was a delay in the process. A traffic study was ultimately done, but at some point, the rubber had to meet the road, and they just denied the request at the board level without extensive discussion on the matter. At some point, I came in, we submitted an application, and I didn't know the exact time period, but it was premature, and I'm sure many of you were on this planning commission at the time, and I think you, Mr. Height, said, look, we can't really do anything with it because it's not ripe enough for us to even take a real measure on it because of the time period, and I don't know if it was 18 months or 2 years we had to wait, and we may have been in at the 18-month mark. As we kind of continued some discussions, Mr. KG listed the property for sale, and there have been 0 bites at this. There was one prospective buyer. It was some type of a restaurant or in the food industry. I'm not sure if it was a pizza place or not. But as they came to the village and looked up the zoning, they kind of just said, well, it's zoned office, we're not going to go through the steps to be able to get this rezoned. So be that as it may, he has it listed for over 25, more than 25% less than what he purchased it for. So he's already, if somebody were to show interest in buy this, he's willing to take a significant haircut. But at this time, no one is there because I think, at least it's my opinion, that the zoning of it is probably presenting a problem. A couple of weeks ago, we had a conversation in the village office with Ms. Elmiger and Mr. Gillum about what some opportunities and possibilities are. And I think there are some great ideas. We can work with the neighboring property, and I think there are some small apartment units or whatnot. And we can combine these properties, and they could use this as some auxiliary property for parking or overflow or some redevelopment. And it is a real nice idea. It would be great and a great use of the property to be able to use it, downgrade it into some type of residential use. But these are, and we had this conversation, these are just thoughts and ideas that are so far down the road. It's just an idea. I mean, you would need so many parties to be involved. Not just my client, but the place next door would have to have an interest in buying it, and at what price are they going to buy it for? And why would they even spend the money unless they had some interest? Then we discussed perhaps on the, I believe it's the southern side, and the neighboring property acquiring. But you see, there's so many moving parts that you don't know what can happen and at what price and any contingencies. And so the property's still laying dormant. And along with it laying dormant, of course, is this entry into the village. This is, I believe there's a sign there that says welcome, is that what it says, welcome to Wolverine Lake? There may be like a sign, welcome to Wolverine Lake, and it's right there.
I think that's the welcome to Walled Lake sign.
Welcome
going
to
the
Walled
other
Lake?
way. Yeah. But
It's going to make a bad joke. I'm not going to.
It is a village sign.
It's a holy
oh, it
day.
is the village sign?
It is the village sign, right?
Oh.
I guess there's both, yeah, because on
Is-
the
oh,
other
on
side
one
of the road.
side?
On the other side of the road is Walled
Yeah.
Lake.
Okay.
See, we want people to come in and really be welcomed, right? And this is a great corner-ish type of spot for it. And so I went back through the minutes as well to look at some of the concerns. And I think if we can really address these concerns, and I'll address them now, but I'll continue just to give you some other perspectives of our conversation as well. I think in terms of alcohol was one of the big ones that I noticed in the minutes, both from the body as well as from the public, if my memory serves me right. And so my client would be willing to say, we don't need to sell alcohol. I think that removes any concerns. I think there were some concerns about ingress and egress. We did the traffic study. I think I presented it in the last application. I referenced it in that little summary that I gave you. It's nominal in terms of increase in traffic, but my client is even willing to take it a step further that however the ingress and egress in and out of the property, he'd be willing to work with whatever the village would ask for. If it's a one-way direction, southbound in and then southbound out, that would be perfectly fine with him. If there needs to be sidewalks, and I can't remember if there are there sidewalks in front of it right now? If there needed to be sidewalks, I think that was a conversation that I believe I had with someone. He'd be willing to install the sidewalks so it could be, work with whatever can happen in the future for that area in terms of pedestrian walk. I think there were some issues, well, this is going to be a nuisance in the evening and there's going to be bright lights. Well, he's willing to limit his hours significantly.
Are you talking about a specific type of business right now? Because I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, I apologize. My client wants to have this rezoned. At the time, when he submitted the application, it was a rezoning to a commercial use. And years ago, it used to be a gas station, then it changed. It was a bank or office or multiple uses at that point. It's been dormant. He wants to put a gas station there. Gas station and convenience store. You know, as you look at the hours, he would limit the hours. Obviously, summertime, the sun's out longer, and in wintertime it isn't, but I don't think morning is so much of an issue as in the evening. So it would be something like a 6 to 9, which I think is really early for a gas station there. And then there were environmental issues, and I can tell you this from the experience I've had with the department, the State Department, Eagle. They have very high standards, and they will not let something go in unless it meets all of their standards, including containment of the tanks, sensors that notify if there are any issues and whatnot. So I don't think the environmental piece is that big of an issue, especially today where the standards are so high. So this comes down back to how can this be accomplished? And we had this conversation with your esteemed counsel here, who says there is an issue regarding zoning. And the master plan has it as office. And potentially there could be some, this zoning issue if you change this one and any other parcel and
Can I ask a question,
Yeah.
though, just as you're at this point? Even if it was rezoned, it would be special land use for a gas station. Even if we got to rezoning, then you'd have to meet the hurdles for a special land use, and there's 8 criteria, right? And the first criteria for that is an immediate and documented need for that specific use. And an immediate, and I don't know how you could ever possibly hit that hurdle. That's step number, or question number 1, because you have 2 gas stations within a mile of that location that aren't overly, there aren't lines out the door to those gas stations. So you've got the Citgo and you've got the Marathon, and then if you get in further into Walled Lake, there's another couple of gas stations, I think. So even if you got past the rezoning, which would be a giant hurdle, you could never meet that first criteria for special land use, because there is no immediate and documented need, just based on the fact that you've got 2 other gas stations within a mile.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think it's, my client would have to conduct some type of study, but I think to the north, there really isn't anything until you get on Commerce Road. And, considering all the developments going west of that area and north,
2 within a mile.
Can I also
South.
ask, so if you're saying north, just kind of looking at the traffic, northbound traffic wouldn't be able to access this gas station very easily, right? So this gas
Off a
station.
Decker anyways.
Right, so this gas station still doesn't solve a north gas
No,
traveling problem.
right, but those,
Unless you're from the north.
if you're from the north, you'd be going south
Going
into,
south, yeah.
On your way
to
north.
probably to work, if you will, once you work at home, with Zoom and all that. But
But it's such a
if you're from the
stretch.
north, you'd be coming down, most likely people are going down to 96 or wherever they're going, into Novi or West Bloomfield, Farmington, going, east, or, that would be a passage going southbound in the morning for certain.
So are we having a back and forth now, or are we
Yeah,
gonna
I
let him
think-
finish?
Because
Because I do have some,
Let him
Any,
okay.
So the zoning was an issue, and then the special land use, which, I think we would be able to, at least we could at least, at that point, start crossing those hurdles, and I think, speaking to my client, that we would at least have a strong argument for being able to get the special land use. Ultimately, though, I think it would go like this, and we had this conversation also. If you're going to be rezoning, we have to have, be able to think, okay, what are the possibilities? So a rezoning can achieve 2 things. One, it could achieve my client's objective of being able to have a fuel station and convenience shop, which we'd have to come back and go through the special land use portion. But at the same time, even a rezoning can assist in getting this place occupied with some other type of business aside from an office, which right now, because it's zoned that way, there is no interest. There is no interest anywhere. And I can understand and appreciate that you're kind of also, I won't say handcuffed, because those are made out of steel, but tied, maybe tied loosely, where your hands are, because of the master plan and because of other zoning issues. However, that still leaves you the opportunity, though, to consider, well, if we want this entrance into Wolverine Lake to be a real gem or jewel, having it be zoned an office, as great and unified that would be for that area, is not going to solve that issue of that property. Because unless somebody comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to buy this parcel, and I want the middle parcel also, and redevelop it, it won't serve any purpose other than what to do on that cornerish or around, in that spot at 2355. So that's what kind of we wanted to have this discussion, to say, all right, we appreciate all the concerns about a fueling station and convenience store. Obviously, that's what my client wants, and I still think that it would be a great idea, and I think that coming before you on a special land use, we can have the discussion and application on the criteria and be able to make our argument for it. But at the same time, even just doing nothing and leaving it as office, you're going to have that property as is, and it's not anything I think that the village wants as is at the moment. And I know this was a discussion, but I appreciate you giving me the time, and I think at some point, do you want to say something, Julie? Yeah, and I think my client's real point is, look, I mean, we have to do something with this property. Do you guys really, we understand that there's some grandiose ideas out there, and there may be something that we really dream about this becoming, but the reality is what it is today, is that he is actually handcuffed, and any potential buyers are going to come in and say, no, we're not going to deal with this. This isn't zoned the right way, and it's zoned for office. We want to do some other commercial use. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you have questions that I can answer, I'll do my best. You have your attorney here who can also probably guide you and steer you in the right direction.
Thank you, but
Hopefully in my
I'm the
direction.
planner. I'm not an attorney.
Oh, the planner?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were at the big law firm. I must have.
Big planning firm.
We're the planners. I did want to point out, I compared the information that you provided tonight with what had been offered as voluntary conditions the last time you requested a rezoning to C1. And I just wanted to point out that the previous request had hours of operation 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. And with this, it's being modified to 6 a.m., so 1 hour later, to 9 p.m., 1 hour earlier. And then on Friday and Saturday, the old hours were 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., and the new hours are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it's going 1 hour, later in the morning and 1 hour earlier in the evening. And then the other difference is that this document says we can agree to no alcohol sales. The previous conditional rezoning stated that they wouldn't do spirits, which is hard liquor, for 3 years, but they still wanted to sell beer and wine. Now, I'm assuming when you say no alcohol sales, do you mean no spirits or no alcohol, period? No wine, beer, or spirits?
None, period.
None, period. Okay, I just wanted
If that's the
them to
desire
know that.
of the village that would accomplish the goal that my client has in mind, then we'd be willing, even in the hours, if they need to be 9 o'clock throughout the whole week, it's not like that's an issue. I think maybe I just didn't amend it, but my client really is in the gas station business, and he saw this as a nice spot to be able to put one, and seeing that it used to be one historically, that it would serve that purpose in addition to the growth in the area. Obviously in Wolverine Lake, we're around the lake, but certainly Commerce Township and Wixom, there's tremendous development. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and field any questions. So we're not making any decisions here today, but...
Well, I definitely had some question and maybe just a comment. So you weren't involved the last time this got brought up because I remember the last time it was a Zoom meeting because it was probably COVID or something going on, but I was on Zoom and you weren't involved in that one? That's why I wouldn't know because it was.
Yeah, I have not been on the Zoom with the village. I've been in person, so probably you're right.
It was in 2022, so that most likely would have been during the end stage
or
of
at
the
least
COVID.
still zooming.
Are you still zooming, right?
So, what I remember from that particular meeting was what the public was talking about. And I don't think it was 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 6 a.m. or beer and wine. It might have been beer and wine. I don't remember that. But it was more on the lines of the gas station. They didn't like the idea of something that
The tanks.
dangerous is how they put it. I don't know if that's true or not.
Tanks and it was runoff.
Anywhere near them. And they talked about a 600 feet circle, and it hit 2 or 3 of their properties. So I just have a feeling that no matter what you try to convince this board of, that the people that live on, what is that,
Ethel?
Ethel or something?
Ethel Drive, yeah.
Ethel, they're gonna come here and be very vocal about no gas station there.
They already were, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is, the in and out of a gas station is a lot. I have a lot of ideas what could go there, but trying to find someone to do that. And I really like the idea of what you said with, if one of the other areas needed more parking, like that. Are they right next to that,
Medical.
no, the other side?
The other side's the apartment.
The
The apartments. Maybe they could even do so. I know that you were saying what it was. The last thing it was, I think, was a dental supply warehouse.
Yeah, there you go, dental supply warehouse.
And then before that would have been bank, and
And there
then
was a
long
photo
before
shop in
that
there
a gas
previous to
station.
that.
It was a photography
Yeah,
shop for
yeah.
quite a while.
Oh, was it?
Range,
I
yep.
didn't know that one. I knew about the dental.
Yeah, just before the dental was photography.
Okay, so, right, there are a lot of options, but it's such a weird little property, trying to find something. I agree that it looks like it could have been a gas station. And a lot of us thought maybe that's a good idea, but the public was absolutely against it. I mean, there was even some talk about, well, can we look into this particular thing? And I remember saying that seems like a waste of time, because nobody in the neighborhood wants that to be a gas station. And they bought those houses there recently and never thought they were buying next to a gas station. I don't know how bad that would be, but I don't live right there, and they do, and I just don't know we're gonna convince them. And our job's supposed to be to support them. It's not just what we think. So, I mean, I agree that maybe the rezoning isn't a bad idea. I just don't think you're ever gonna convince somebody about a gas station. That's just my thoughts.
No, I can appreciate that, and I did see the minutes. I don't have them all in front of me now, so there was that. I think, though, to your point at the end, and these folks, do they want an eyesore, or do they want something nice there? And ultimately, that's what this is really gonna boil down to, I think, for you, is, okay, what's gonna happen to this property? It just sits there, looking crummy, and it's not like there's so much he really needs to do. If there's trash there, he can pick it up and mow the lawn, but it's not like he needs to come out and reface the place and put nice lights.
It's all asphalt, yeah.
It's not like he has to do anything, and the question is really gonna become this is, okay, he's in the gas station business, but he's also can't do anything with the property now. I can't remember which pizza place it was, Domino's or Pizza Hut or something like that. They come in, all right, no, we're not interested, this thing is zoned as an office, we're not.
That was a question I had. Seems like Jets is up there in an office, kind of, but is that not zoned office?
Multi-use.
That's multi-use or something?
So
But maybe that would be what we should do, is make it zonable for something like that.
Multi-use would be okay, but once again, it's still gonna, to do a gas station, it's still gonna be special.
Right, I'm not saying make a gas station, I have high doubts
I'm not
that
opposed
that'll
to
ever
rezoning
fly.
for multi-use, but
If it was, I think so when it's been, correct me if I'm wrong, Tabitha, but more than 30 years it's been zoned office. So when you bought it, you knew what you were getting. So it's not like it was a change 10 years ago or 5 years ago. It's been over 30 years it's been zoned office. And I think that there's a view that some rationale to that is it's a horrible corner for traffic. We all recognize that. It's 40 miles an hour. You've got tons of multifamily residential just across the street. It's probably the densest area within the whole village/Walled Lake area. So something that, a use that is a low volume, low traffic volume, so a destination type place, which is what an office is, right? People go there, they work, and then they leave, or you have limited visitors. So not a high volume retail where you have cars coming in and out all the time. So I think, just my personal view, it's not so much the rezoning, because we could do a conditional rezoning to say, look, you're coming with a very specific use, whether it's a Domino's or whether it's, there was somebody I had met with that wanted to open a bookstore that served wine and had book club meetings, which right now that property wouldn't be used for, but that would be something that is a low volume, a destination location where you're not having cars zipping in and out, and you're not having people trying from all those apartments and condos, trying to walk across the street to get to a party store or something like that. So I think if you think low volume, traffic, destination type location, I think we could kind of wrap our heads around it. Again, my personal view is, I couldn't think of a worst possible location for a gas station within a 5-mile radius of there, just because of that funny bend, high-density volume apartments across the street, people trying to walk across to pick up whatever they want at a party store. Just seems to me like that would be a disaster.
That was something that was also brought up.
Yeah.
I remember now that they were talking about, that's such a weird intersection and trying to make sure nobody's gonna get, you're running across the road here and somebody doesn't see you,
It's
so.
kind of a blind corner sometimes.
Yeah.
It is, it's just, it's just and you couldn't put a crosswalk there, that would be another traffic disaster. So again, I think low volume, destination type location, whether that is office or something else, I think maybe we could wrap our head around it. But, and I'm sure there are ideas, whether it is a pizza place, again, I consider that, well, that's low volume or not, but it's at least the people coming in and out of there, it's delivery frequently. Something along that. But now I do have a comment, not to be agitative, but when I went and pulled some of the county records, so it looked like, and you can't always tell what the sale price is from the county records, because sometimes they're different. But what I could see was a purchase price of $300,000 and a most recent listing of $600,000. So I don't know if the $300,000 was the accurate purchase price, but that's what it showed in December of 2020, was a purchase price of $300,000. And it's off market now, but when it was on market a couple months ago, it was up for $600,000. So when you say it's 25% less, I don't know I don't know how that equates.
Well, you
So-
don't need to.
And you don't need to answer that.
answer that question.
But
No.
Don't worry about it.
But
It was
the-
$399, the listing price, though, not
But-
$600.
Well, I don't think you should.
Okay,
I
but-
think that's right. They shouldn't have.
Okay, but it was recognized that we're trying to sell it for 25% less than what we purchased it for.
Even if it's listed for 600, like what you said, and we don't get an offer of 100,000,
No,
does
I-
that mean there's something wrong with it?
I-
I'll offer
I-
100,000.
oh.
Huh?
You sell for 100,000, I'll.
Yeah, I bet.
Well-
That's what the village is waiting for.
I did
Probably
have
get donate or
I did have an idea about, well,
So-
maybe that's where it's coming from, but
But I-
would the village consider buying that and making one of those pocket parks, or?
No.
No, it's not a good spot because it's on a main road,
And I have a quick question too.
or we just don't have the money.
When you were,
Hold on, George, are you done?
No, but just, again, the comment was made that we're trying to sell it for 25% less than we purchased it for. I didn't see that. The other comment is, being a good steward of the village, there is a significant outstanding tax balance. So taxes have only been paid once. It was a winter tax of a couple of years ago, and there's an outstanding balance of $12,000. So at some point in time, it's going to be a moot point because the county's going to take the property over. So I just want to get that out and as well, that while the property is empty, taxes have not been paid. Basically, since purchase, that, as of yesterday anyway, on the county records. So I think that's something that needs to
So
be
if I owned
addressed.
the property for the last 5 years, usually the county will foreclose on you within 3 years. So obviously,
Yep.
has taxes been paid? They are not current, but they have been paid. So that's just to answer your question,
There's,
you know?
okay, and I know, and that, I'm getting a little off topic here, but it's,
That's what I think,
But
too.
I'm just answering your question on the price and on the taxes. You know, how you guys expect us to pay the taxes when they pay? You guys are not helping us to do nothing with it.
times.
You know?
You knew what the property was zoned when you bought
You came up
it.
with the subject
Exactly.
telling me what I
Yep.
paid for it and what I listed for it. So now I gotta answer you like that. You know? And the gentleman here, he wants to buy it for 100,000. You know, it looks like we're in an auction over here.
He was kidding.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was a joke.
I mean, unless
Any more
I just
questions?
think we're way off subject here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I,
more
what we
questions?
want to know
Hey,
is
good
what
job,
we
Coach.
can put there and what you can tell people they can put there. That's
Yeah.
about it. How much you make off it, how much you pay, how you pay your taxes, how far behind you are, just irrelevant completely to me. I mean, I just paid some taxes on a property up north that I didn't know was owed to, so, you know, as long as it's not being foreclosed, and nobody
Feels like
cares
insulting
about stuff like that here.
not paying taxes.
I just think that was irrelevant. I just kind of wish
I-
I wouldn't have brought that up.
I think the point
That's-
that George made
that's
about a
fair
low
point.
traffic, low density.
That I agree
destination,
with a lot.
If you can come up with a plan for something like that, we're all ears. Absolutely, we're all ears. But I just don't think the public wants a gas station there. I don't think the traffic would support it, the infrastructure would support it. And I just think that it's, the zoning would be a hurdle. So if you can come up with something that's, like you said, destination, low traffic, you got a winner. But
So, I guess, you know, how does he say, listen, I have this property that's zoned office, but hey, you can come in and put, not whatever you want under the sun, but you can come and put in whatever you want. How can the buyer who comes in and says, wait, you have a property that's zoned office, and I want to put a pizza place or whatever, and you're telling me I can do it,
I
do
think you
whatever
have
I
an
want
answer
to
to
do?
that.
I mean,
Is that what you're,
Well, the village is currently, are we looking at the master plan right now? We certainly could look at the master plan right now. And they could update their future land use map to indicate what their vision is for that corner. And whether it's commercial or multifamily residential, or if you consider keeping it an office, it's up to them, and village council also has to agree to it. So that's one way to communicate to people, this is what the village is looking for in that location.
I think, Sally, we just did go through our master plan a couple of years ago, and in fact, we did look at, we did rezone some parcels down the street on Glengarry, remember?
Right.
all to mix
It's a mixed use.
To mixed use because it did not fit, the area did not fit our master plan originally.
it
So
was also,
we-
that's what it was.
It was.
So we were
it was
like
a long time ago, right. But-
bucking the trend, or whatever
Yeah,
you
so
call
we-
it.
We did go through that exercise, and we looked at all the office and commercial properties in the village, if you remember. That was, what,
But
2 or 3 or
wasn't
4 years
that
ago?
property one of the ones they said could be a dispensary? If we allowed them, I don't know that we allow them, but
It
I
was.
remember we were saying, that's office, and that's not by any other adult use, and that is, it was more for us to be able to say, we're not saying you can't have one, like
The
some other
village-
villages did.
The village does prohibit marijuana facilities, so dispensaries,
We have to-
grow
I remember
operations,
that.
large grow operations, so there's a specific list of 5 different facilities, and the village has the ability to and has prohibited those. Now, you cannot prohibit a caregiver. So a caregiver who has 5 patients could use that property to grow 12 plants per patient.
That's what it was, now I
Up to 70
remember.
plants, so they can also grow 12 plants for themselves. So that's what could go there regarding medical
There you go.
marijuana.
Maybe
But-
put some weed out of there.
Probably not
That'll be
big.
a good sign for the village.
Probably.
Right next to the village sign.
To your point on the future land use, what would our options be? Would it be multi-use? So it wouldn't be-
Multi-use
I
or
think that's something
commercial.
we have to discuss, but
What's one level below
Commercial.
commercial?
Yeah.
Is that multi-use?
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 levels of commercial.
Sure.
There's C3,
Right,
C2,
below all
C1,
of those.
and,
Below all that, I think is multi-use, right?
So multi-use,
well, it's
then,
office, but it's multi-use means you can do,
but if it was multi-use, then that would give Mr. KG the opportunity to say, future land use has multi-use, and multi-use could be these types of businesses.
Could certainly
Yes.
open up.
Yes, yes.
So it would allow a discussion to take place on different types of businesses. And maybe Sally, what would be some examples of multi-use businesses? Because it's what we've just put in down Glengarry, right?
I'm embarrassed. I do not have that district in my book here. It's a
Like
new
it-
district, brand new
Yeah.
district, and it does allow, do you have a copy,
Be
Tabitha?
too embarrassed because it's not codified and hasn't been published through, so it's not even online yet. We
Okay.
haven't codified yet, we've read too many.
All right. But I do believe that it permits a certain list of C1, multifamily, and single-family, because that Glengarry corridor over there had that mix. And the village kind of was getting tired of dealing with these non-conforming uses over there. So we created this mixed-use district, and it's a mixture of those three districts, the uses allowed in those three districts, but it's not all the uses in those three districts, because those parcels are small, and many of those uses just wouldn't fit with the required parking and the vehicular circulation you would need and that kind of thing. So I don't recall off the top of my head if a gas station liquor store use is in that mix.
But I think what we're hearing though is the gas station liquor store is not in the mix.
Right.
But what would a use be for something other than office that has a business application?
Flower
C1.
shop.
Pardon me?
Flower shop,
Yes, a flower shop,
Nail shop.
perfect example.
nail shop, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
Hair
But we
salon.
couldn't have
A
another
destination location.
liquor
that
store or
people are
anything
going to.
because of the Glengarry Inn being right there, and you can't have two adult usages within
That high intensity, yeah.
a certain amount of distance, I can't.
I mean, at
1,000
least it would
feet.
open
It's
up, it
1,000
would
feet,
open up
so-
opportunities compared to just, like, you wanna have an office building?
If I could say something about the particular property we're talking about. I've been on this board for a long time, and this is the second time third time I remember people coming, talking about what could be there. This is the second time we've talked about a gas station, and one time it was about selling cars off of the lot.
Yes.
And that, it just seemed like there'd be too many people coming over there, according to the people that lived around there, like it wouldn't be low,
Low
although they
traffic,
were
yeah.
saying it was just a spot where they sold cars online. But I'm just thinking, I'd like to hear some more ideas before I just, capitulate to a gas station.
Well, let me tell you that I think a general description of what you see acceptable there is better than a flower shop or, some kind of store or something like that. Because if we're going to rezone this, we need to rezone it to a district, and districts have a lot of uses in them. So
What about neighborhood commercial?
that's what is this, that's C1, and that's what
So
it.
C1 is neighborhood.
And that's what they want, and that's where a gas station would be a special land use. So that's what they were requesting, was C1.
Okay, so C1 is neighborhood commercial.
Right.
Which is the small.
Yep,
Okay,
local.
So that is the florist, the baker.
That's right,
uh,
right, right.
What is excluded?
From the multifamily zoning district?
Right, from
no,
whatever this
from-
would
From
be.
C1 to
C1
C2.
You know what, can we talk, I think the C1, and we can get back to C1, I'm happy to do that, but I think this is anyway.
Better as a
Do you
multi-use?
want me to go get the mixed use so you can see?
Yes,
what's
do you
mixed
mind,
use?
Tabitha?
It's on my
That'd be
desk.
terrific, thank you.
You don't mind me stepping away?
And maybe I'm just not understanding, is there a mixed-use zone classification?
There is.
And a C1 zone classification?
Yes, so
C1
there are
would be
two
like
different zoning classifications.
Above mixed use.
And the mixed use is a combination of some of the C1 uses, some of the multifamily uses, and some of the single-family uses. So it kind of conglomerates those three zoning districts into one new mixed-use zoning district, but it is kind of low intensity, and it was it particularly established for there's 6 properties up on Glengarry that were continually changing over hands, and they were always non-conforming. It was always a problem. It was always variances and issues. So we created this mixed-use category, thank you, so that it could, those 6 little properties could, continue to be used as they currently are, and
Well, there was a
not
couple
be
homes that were
non-conforming.
actually zoned as being office.
As in
Right.
commercial.
Right.
So we created that to solve a problem,
Right. It was-
Right.
not to,
And even with the mixed use.
not to try to grow something new.
Right.
Right.
Even with the mixed use, you still have to apply for whatever you're trying to put in there.
Still, what were you talking about, the
The special land use.
special land
But,
use?
but we do have the conditional rezoning. So this is somehow if we could create an environment so that so ideas would come to us. So rather than saying ideas within this boundary, come to us and we'll consider a conditional rezoning for this specific purpose that you want to do. That seems like that's an easy way to go, if we can figure out what that overall, kind of that first level of boundary, these types of businesses would be.
I think that's a
consider
wonderful
positive.
idea, but I think it
It's not
puts a
gonna,
whole, it's not gonna solve his problem of how do I get people that are driving by to realize they can put something else there.
well, that's his
You know?
market, that he can
Right.
market the property. But this idea, the mixed-use zoning district would be so that you have more opportunities to market the property. It would not allow you to put a gas station there. So, the rezoning would essentially try and assist you to sell the property to somebody else who was interested in doing one of these more low-intensity uses. So, that's what that would achieve.
So what are they using?
Well, uses permitted by right in R1A, single family, and I could read all of those uses too.
I'll take them from you, and if you have
Okay.
an extra copy, or I'll
Yeah.
get a copy from you.
And
Sally.
yes, and then uses permitted by right in O1, which is what you currently are allowed to do there. And uses permitted by right in C1, local business, except it says, the following special lane uses in the districts noted shall not be permitted: automobile service stations. So you can't put a gas station there. That's specifically prohibited in mixed use. But I think it would accommodate what you were talking about, the pizza place, the bakery, some kind of small food restaurant or something like that.
Just because someone mentioned it, I'm going to ask it. So if someone came in as a tenant and decided to do a caregiver shop there, that would qualify under office?
Well, when you say shop on the end,
It's not a
What'd I say?
dispensary.
it's not a shop.
It's not a
just a
dis-
guy
think I
that
said shop.
goes for him and a few of his
Five of
He
the
can
stations.
only.
five
yeah.
patients.
Patients.
I think I said open up shop as in.
I thought you meant, like
A
a
dispensary.
dispensary.
No, if you wanted to go in there and you can get 3 or 4 tenants to come and
No.
grow.
He would only have one tenant, because the way the village's ordinance is structured, one tenant per building. You could have one tenant growing up to 70 plants for his patients, and
I think
and
that's a
12 for
state law as
himself.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah,
a state
it's-
law. That is the state law,
So you have to be a licensed caregiver.
licensed caregiver.
And you have to have specific patients
Yep.
that you are
Yeah.
serving.
You have 5 patients and yourself, that's 6, 12 plants per
And that's
72.
Yep.
And does he need a certificate of occupancy for that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna need electrical permit, probably
Ventilation.
Fire safety,
ventilation, because there's specific requirements for us, kind of like filters and scrubbers, so that the odors are not emitted into the atmosphere. So there's an ordinance in here for.
The use
that.
won't be denied then, so long as he meets all these, this criteria of electrical and all that.
I mean,
But I guess my point is that what the neighbors around there want?
I think at that point, it's kind of withheld in
They
of
really
itself.
don't,
People aren't
they
coming
really
and
don't have a
going
choice.
like they are at the greenhouse in Walled Lake. This is like one guy goes there, grabs what he needs, takes it to his patients. Right? This isn't
Nah.
a shop where people come and go.
No, I get it. I think, my
like
point
a-
is that neighbors never like this type of
Nobody's
stuff
gonna
there.
like, nobody's gonna want to grow a house.
They're not gonna want a grow house, they don't want a gas station, they probably don't want a pizza place or a Jimmy John's or anything like that, because people are comfortable and content. But the alternative is, they have this eyesore they have to live next to, and then this village gets calls about why nothing is going on, and how come there's beer cans strewn about, and the guy didn't cut his lawn, and a dandelion is growing, so this is kind of why we wanted to have this discussion, no decision, but my client also needed to be able to understand what can happen here. There's no application where we have to submit, so we're having that dialogue, because ultimately, the citizens in that area specifically are gonna say, I don't want anything, because it's gonna encroach on me, whatever it is. And by the way, I want it to look nice and pretty, so plant flowers. Because I've been around long enough, so have all of you, so you've been in these spots, and that's typically, generally, what the citizens say. And in all the board meetings that I've gone to, you hardly get people applauding ideas. It's more the people who don't like something that come out and say, we don't like this.
So if outside of a convenience store gas station, what would you like to put there? Other than those two things, and of every possible other thing you can think of, what would your 2 or 3 priorities be?
It's a hard question for me to answer, and I'll tell you why. My client is in the gas station business. So and understandably, and I understand your point, he knew that it was the zone like this, but he also kind of took a look at it and said, okay, this may be a possibility and an opportunity, and I'm going to rehab the outside, and it's going to look nice, and, the pavement is going to be nice, and it's going to be a nice place. It's not going to be some filthy little spot and dingy little spot. I'm going to make it look nice. And that should be appreciated, right? So he comes in taking that chance. But he's not going to say, I'm going to do a flower shop or a pizza shop or whatever it might be, or a residential, condominium complex or whatever it is, because that's not in his lane. So it's difficult for me to answer that. What I would like is, of course, achieve the objective of getting a gas station convenience store. Alternatively, I want him to be able to get the best value if that's not going to be something. And the only way to be able to get the best value is to be able to come to you all and say, listen, this is a entrance point and a welcome point. I don't think you want it to be, and anybody who takes an office, by the way, even if somebody decided to rent this as an office, they're not going to put any money on the exterior, because you come in, me as an attorney, I'll come in, turn the key, look in the inside, change the carpet, put a few shelves, do some paint. The outside's gonna look the same. So, I'm looking at a building now on Union Lake Road, terrible to get in and out of, over right across from Kickstand on the other side. Used to be a court reporter spot, but I like the building. It's a nice spot. It's close to home. But I'm not gonna do anything on the outside. Rehab it on the inside, make it look nice for clients, and the building look the same. So I think you're going to have that same issue. However, if somebody comes in with a retail shop or some other commercial use that really wants that wow factor or that nice visibility in order to attract customers or clients, they will do something to the exterior. So that's kind of how I'd like you to see it as well, as this is a spot that people are going to come in. Let's convert this into a use. A, my client be able to resell it and market it like that. And B, you're gonna get a new property owner or a new tenant that is willing to do stuff on the outside. Otherwise, it'll still be an eyesore.
So what I've heard from the planning commission, and correct me if I'm wrong, I have not heard support for a gas station and liquor store. Is that correct?
Correct.
And the ideas for alternative uses to help you market your property to more people are the mixed-use district And we haven't really talked about modifying the zoning to a multifamily district. And, you know, you're probably right, that would require coordination with the property owner to the north, or selling both the property on the north and this corner piece together so that they could redevelop both of those pieces. So that's probably more of a long shot.
So there's a parcel between this and the apartments?
There is not a parcel between this and the apartments. The
Okay,
apartments
it
are
is.
directly next door.
So that's the property to the north?
That's the
you're talking about.
property to the
Okay.
north, yep. So, and that apartment building, I believe, is an older building. You know, somebody might be interested in bringing it up, you know, higher standard and expanding it, or adding some other amenity for their tenant
But
on
mixed
this
use
site.
covers that though, right?
Yeah, mixed
cover-
use would do that, yes,
Multifamily?
Yeah,
Yes.
multifamily is included in mixed use. yeah.
yes.
You're talking about a residential type
Yes.
of pro? Yeah.
Yep.
It's a good, look, it's a good idea, because it would be kind of uniform with the area, and it would be, but it's a lot of pieces to string together,
No,
yeah, a lot
but
of
what
dough.
we're saying, if we put in the future land use, the mixed-use zoning criteria,
Uh-huh.
that gives you 3 windows.
The options.
It's multifamily, it's office, and it's neighborhood commercial. So neighborhood commercial. with the
Except a few
exclusion,
things, yeah.
Except automotive and convenience. stores,
High-intensity
things like that.
uses, like you
Right.
could not have
But it opens
liquor,
up-
alcohol sales there.
It opens up 2 additional lines of
Opportunities,
customers.
What if it was a, like, you know, those tobacco shops?
Smoke
Like a
shop.
Wild Bill's or something like that?
We'd have to determine if that would be considered a high-intensity use. Because there's a definition here.
Okay.
In the commercial, let me find it.
I think if you go back to think of some ideas, and when you come up with one that you think is gonna match these, then we start the process of the application again.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know why we wouldn't just, it's been this way for a long time, and I understand it's been sitting vacant, and I don't like it either. That multi-use just sounds like what we should do to give him these other opportunities. But I'm
I
not
agree.
saying obviously we're not doing anything tonight,
No.
but it just seems like, why wait?
We've got to wait because, first of all, there's no formal application. And
I don't
second,
understand what you mean.
they have not
Application to
submitted a
rezone.
formal
Oh, right,
rezoning
right,
application.
right. I'm not saying we do it without them
Tonight.
asking.
Okay, okay, all right. I thought you wanted to do it tonight.
No, no, I
But-
said no, not tonight.
Okay.
But wouldn't, one thing I don't want to get the cart before it, but one thing we could do is talk about future land use.
Yeah.
And we could do that tonight, because one, it's not completely binding on us. It's a projection into the future, and the future is, it's an expanded number of years, but it says, here's where our heads are. We're looking at going in this direction, which I think gets to
Well, I
Scott's
tell you,
point.
if I had my druthers, or however they used to say it, about it's like, if that property to the north would expand into that one, or the property to the west would expand into it, make their office bigger by making this office, or make their, like you said, it could even be like a clubhouse that they put there or something, for people, to bring more people. I just don't think that's gonna happen right there, but I'm just saying, if one of those two would take it over, and if we made it multi-use, either one of them could do that. Right.
So I would suggest, if you're interested in updating the future land use map in this direction, that we study what could happen there. So if you were to identify this as mixed use, I would want you to know what possibilities the mixed use zoning, which would be the next step after you did your future land use map, you would, to make your zoning consistent with your master plan, you would rezone it to this mixed-use category, this mixed-use zoning district. But before you did that, I would want you to know what the possibilities are. So,
We have other mixed use already in the village. Can't they just look at what's allowed in that mixed use area?
Certainly
to
they
see
could,
what-
but
and
if
then you
you're
guys can
gonna-
do your homework and come up with some
But to
ideas and
change
then
it-
submit a
But-
proposal.
well, I think what George here is saying is that if you're going to consider a zoning change, it's got to meet your master plan. A rezoning, that's one of the main criterias in a rezoning, that it's consistent with your master plan. So if you are thinking about considering this mixed-use zoning district, we need to first look at the master plan and consider what uses would be permitted there before you made this move. Because if you just decided, okay, let's just change the future land use map to mixed use, and then we get to the zoning designation and the mixed use zoning district allows things that you don't think are appropriate there, then we've got a problem.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
So, one step at a time, and I know planning's very time-consuming, but we want it to be methodical and well thought out, and now, it's not going to be perfect, nothing's perfect, but it will be, a direction that you think is, I think, trying to assist this property owner, but yet also trying to consider the village and the residents that live nearby. So we're trying to find this middle ground, this balance. But to do that, I think it needs to be well thought out.
Yeah.
But so if we, and I think that's very wise counsel. If we get to that point, it's gonna, there's a long process between getting to future land use and then getting to a zoning change and then getting to potential customers to want to develop the property.
Yes.
If we get to a point where we agree on future land use, does that give Mr. Kagi something concrete enough that he can market this as a future land use? These types of businesses could go there?
Well,
I
I
know it's soft.
It is soft. It's not as, if a new property owner was real shy about this parcel because it's not zoned appropriately, even though it's master planned for, what they wanted to do, I don't think it'd be a good fit for them. But there may be, a new owner out there who's willing to try and get it rezoned. So I think just to be on the conservative side, I think this is a year-long process. And primarily because when you do a master plan update, first we have to study it. You have to be convinced that that's the right designation to modify the future land use map. Then you have to send it to village council. They have to approve it for distribution. It has to go to your neighbors for at least a 42-day review period, including Oakland County. Then it has to come back to you, and that's just the master, and then it has to go back to village council. So, and you have to have a public hearing.
Can I have clarity on this? Do we have to update the entire master plan to
No.
update just one section of it?
You don't,
And
what-
I mean, even the parts that you're talking about, sending it out and getting approval.
You
and all
have to
that.
do all of that.
You have to
Even if you
change one line.
Yes.
Okay.
That's an amendment, that's not a full rewrite. A full rewrite would be a 63-day review period with your neighbors. So because it's just an amendment, it's only a 42-day review period. But you're still required to the village council has to approve the distribution, you have to distribute it, 42 days later you get the comments from your neighbors, then you have to have a public hearing, then you have to make a recommendation to village council, and village council has to approve it. Then you can start considering the rezoning based on the new future land use designation.
For one property, it really seems
For
like
any
a
change.
real long process just for one property.
That's the law.
But
I understand.
Yeah.
But in the interim.
Let's change the law.
If you
Call your
had
state rep.
If you come to, in the interim of that, if you come to us with a very specific project or idea, we could still consider that for a conditional rezoning.
I think so. I do, I think so.
So.
But
That was
it-
gonna be my
it-
question too. I was actually gonna ask that if, let's say tomorrow we find a tenant or a buyer or some use. We say, hey, can we just submit an application for some type of rezoning or conditional?
Well, I think that's too soon.
No, it won't take a year. That's what,
I
I don't
think
mean
that's-
tomorrow, but
Okay, well, you
Yeah.
said tomorrow, so.
I did.
Uh-huh,
but I
okay.
didn't mean it.
But I think we'd have to be well along in the process. So I think the planning commission would, I'd have to prepare some materials for them to consider. They would have to look at all the different land uses that might be allowable in the, this category. And, you know, they need probably a couple months to look it over and make a decision. So I would say 6 months at the earliest.
So-
And I don't want to, you know, I want to be conservative, and I don't want you to have unrealistic expectations. So that's,
But Sally, if they came to us literally tomorrow or next meeting and said, we want to put a florist shop there, what would we have to do to consider that?
well, I think you need to at least be well on your way in the master planning process.
Okay, so,
Because it is clearly not, as of today, as of tomorrow, it's not going to be consistent with your master plan.
okay. Okay. So the first step then truly is the future land use. Has to be our
Amendment.
first
Let me
step.
ask this. I mean, I trust you, and I'm not
I know.
sticking it to you here, but are we absolutely sure that the master plan doesn't give us some kind of leeway to do conditional rezoning in some spot like that?
Well, we've talked about the conditional rezoning for a gas station and liquor store, and that was denied. We don't have a conditional rezoning request for anything else, a florist shop or anything like that. But it's kind of, I think you're asking the same question in a different way. It's still not consistent with the master plan. It is a commercial use in an office zoning district. It's just not consistent. So you don't have anything in your master plan supporting this kind of modification. And I'll tell you, I know it seems cumbersome, and I know it seems like a lot for one property, but if you don't follow this process for these smaller, what are considered these smaller decisions, if you have to have a big decision, guess what? That also, big decision is going to say, hey, you didn't follow the process for that little property, why are you making us do it? So it is just not a good idea to not follow the process. We have a process here, it's a good process, it's a very thoughtful process, and it will enable you to make good decisions because you'll have the right information.
But I do believe that had we foreseen some of these issues, that we could have put that into the future land use in the master plan. And then we would know that, you know, I don't know how we'd word it, and maybe it wouldn't be, you know, that easy to do. But if we had said, you know, one-off properties that don't conform, you know, can be moved to multi-use, or I'm definitely not saying it the right way, but I'm saying, had we done that, maybe that's the change we need to make with the master plan, so that the next guy that comes around and says, I can't do anything with this property because of, you know, where it's at and what you'll allow, and can we change it to multi-use? Well, we allow that because we've allowed that in our master plan. Is that even, I mean, you're looking at me with a straight face, you're not looking at me like this guy is out of it, you know, so I don't know whether.
Well, I just don't think there's a blanket statement you can put in your master plan to say, any change we decide is okay.
No, that's
Because
not
that's
what
not the point of the
Right.
master plan. The one major important part of a master plan is communicating to a developer what the village wants on these very specific parcels. And if you've got a blanket statement and they're saying, yeah, we'll consider anything, anywhere, and I'm going a little over what you said. I'm
I
not,
know
you
what
know,
you're
you
saying.
didn't say it quite so expansively, but it's kind of defeating the purpose. Because you guys, I mean, this future land use map, you've considered every parcel on this.
Right.
And you have very specific reasons for the designations that you've identified. And, you know, if you're planning on making a change, it has to be just as thoughtfully thought through.
So basically, if we would have had this conversation 2 years ago,
Yeah, right.
we'd be
I do
in a
think,
better
though,
place.
I'm sorry, Mr. Weber, to your point, Mr. Fredericks, I do believe, though, if we do submit an application for rezoning, for instance, this one, and there wasn't any issues, and you say, yeah, we do want a gas station, I think that if you would have recommended it and then the board approved it, it would have been rezoned.
There are criteria that they have to follow for a rezoning. One of them is it consistent with the master plan? Sure, they can make any decision they want, but that's not necessarily a good idea.
I know
Okay.
what you're saying. I know what you're saying. But
Yes, it's precedent setting.
the,
A good attorney knows that.
right, but and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to be clear to Mr. Fredericks. Yes, if I come in with a flower shop plan in a couple months, you do put the public notice, come back over here, and you said, oh, this is great, finally, we can fill this up, you can make a recommendation. Then the board would have to listen to Miss Sally here, and she's going to say this and that, and then the board's going to say, yeah, but we believe that this would be good. I'm just speculating. That would be perfectly fine, and it would be approved.
Well, I tell
It
you,
would be legal. It would be legal.
it-
Legal.
we don't
would be legal.
need.
It would be legal, yeah.
We don't need anything from these people to tell us that, gee, we sure would like that piece of property to be multi-use.
Absolutely, you do
We
not
can
need
do
anything
that.
from them. You have the
Because, boy,
authority
wouldn't it be
to do
nice
that,
if
yes.
these people bought it, or if these people bought
I
it,
mean,
or
you have the-
if some guy that had to be right next to his dentist built a 3-story house. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we make it multi-use, and all those things are possible.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
So,
Yep.
I think
You can start
it's
the,
definitely a good idea to look at that, but as we're looking at that, we need to do what I talked about, look around the village. Are there other places that we need to do the same thing?
and we can start that anytime you want.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Sally, but
Excuse me.
that process
We already
where
did that.
the village does it on their own volition is gonna take the year or more.
Right?
It would take the same amount of time. It is just the nature of the beast. I listed off all the steps that they have to go through to make a master plan amendment, and it just takes time. They meet once a month, and the village council meets once a month. So, is that correct? Or is
And
that twice?
and until that's done, they can't,
No,
apply?
I said that we need, I'm sorry.
You said be
that.
along the
We need to
way.
be well along the way.
That was the point, is that, yeah, it takes a year, but you don't have to wait the whole year to try to get in on it.
They could kind of overlap, but I don't think the rezoning would be able to be approved until the master plan for that mixed use was approved.
So that's the 6 months you're talking about. not
You know,
about-
up to a year.
Mr. Castro,
Yes.
a quick question.
That would be the
Why did your
beginning.
client buy the property knowing that he couldn't use it for what he wanted to use it for? When he was doing the research before he made the purchase, why would he buy an office property and then try to put a gas station there? That's my question. I don't
Yeah.
understand why we're in this predicament because of that decision. So, I don't understand why, knowing that it was zoned for office, he bought it thinking he was gonna put a gas station in.
I think in other municipalities
Uh-huh.
that he has gone forth and gotten rezoning and received approvals to do it. And I think that understanding his overall business model and looking at other municipalities where he has done this, and others have done it, I'm not just saying him, others have done it as well, he believed that there would be an opportunity to do that.
Was there houses within 600 feet of those other properties? Was it on
There's
a,
houses behind the gas station.
yeah,
You know how many
okay.
gas
All right, well, I
stations
was
you
just,
see on the road No, just
Yeah.
answer the 600 feet.
Right. I was
Yes,
just
absolutely.
wondering why
It's
you
50
went,
feet from the gas station.
yeah, I mean, I was just
That
wondering
doesn't
why
mean that house
Depends
is
on the
worth
area.
nothing.
I was just wondering why you decided to make that purchase, knowing that you couldn't use the
He-
property.
he has it.
Yeah, that's why, right, that's why I asked the question. I was just wondering.
Because it's been done before.
Yeah, okay.
And,
We just got one-
Thank you, yeah.
We just got one done not even 2 months ago.
Well, I was just wondering. That's why I asked the question. Thank you.
so, there's, people in business, they do it all the time. In fact, happens in Commerce and Novi, Warren, where folks come in for rezoning. But there was something else I thought that you had asked as well.
The 600 feet.
What did you ask me?
Yeah, it's fine. We're good. I think
I
everybody
mean,
knows what they need. to
Personally,
do at
I'm not
this point.
against anything going there, but I also am representing those people. And what they said on that Zoom meeting convinced me completely that they were 100% against it, and that it wasn't like this neighbor liked it, this neighbor didn't, this neighbor liked it, this neighbor didn't. It was like everybody within 600 feet, where it was like 2 or 3 properties each way, and even ones beyond that said, no, we don't like it. And there was more than just the danger. There was just any kind of a store at all, being a convenience type store, gets a lot of traffic and people crossing the road, and it is kind of a dangerous spot. I don't remember, did they have a light there when they came last time? Because it's got a new light, so I don't know if that would make any difference to them, but all I'm saying is I just don't think you're gonna be able to convince them about a gas station.
Yeah.
But I think we should, if you guys think it's a good idea, that we look into this, changing the master plan for these weird lots that don't have anything you can do with them, and right now, the only one I can think of is yours.
Well, we certainly can, if you're interested in doing that, we can certainly start looking at it.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what I-
if we're gonna open it up, I think Scott makes a great point. If we're
Mhm.
opening up the master plan for this property, we should at least take a bird's eye view at any of the other disparate properties that there
I
aren't many.
think we did that last time we went through our master
Yeah, we
plan.
did.
They may have,
Actually
yeah.
did, but, we can always look at it again.
Can't hurt to look.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion?
I think if that is your decision, it sounds like, yes, that's the decision, because what we'll have to do is I'll have to prepare an intent to plan letter and send that out to all your neighbors, stating that you're going to be opening this master plan to look at the future land use map, essentially is what you're doing. And possibly the descriptions of your future land use categories. And then we'll go from there.
Well, I think what we ought to do is revisit what we did last time, because we did change some things for the multi-residential district, or the
Multi-use.
multi-use
Yeah, we were
district.
very thorough.
I think we should go through what we did last time, because we did look at a lot of the properties around the village.
Agreed.
Did we say it's
I
not
just
been
want to make sure that
codified
we
yet? What
we
does
were
that actually
consistent with what we
mean?
did last time. And then if we decide we need to go forward with it, we can do that.
Okay, so we'll look at,
I think the first
we'll
thing
look
to do
at
is
what
look
you
at
did
we
last time
Yes.
at your
Mhm.
April meeting, and we'll go over that, and then you'll decide whether or not to pull the trigger and start updating the future land use map.
Because that gets to what we just, unintended consequences. We can figure out kind of what we want there to make sure that whatever the multi-use.
Because I think we did have some discussion about that.
Oh, we
if I
did.
Remember,
Yeah,
yeah.
we were really thorough about that, so
Mhm.
that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and the mixed use, I think, plays in your favor. I mean, look at those condominiums, let's say even if it was partially residential, like the thought of getting the other person in and then they develop it. Over off of Maple on the north side, kind of across from the school, where they have the hair salon and whatever retail outlets on the first floor.
Got apartments above it.
Nobody would be able to do that here without you guys kind of taking a look at what the possibilities are. In fact, Wixom, who's kind of your neighbor, I guess, they're looking to do a development that is essentially just like that, where it's retail and commercial on the main floor and residential over off of like Pontiac
You
Trail.
had asked about something, and I can't remember what it was. Was it a smoke shop?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And the reason why I ask is because of the business that my client's in terms of gas stations and stuff. He has a lot of contacts of people in
Right,
that industry
yeah.
that would just want to do that essentially sole purpose. And if it would be something you would be amenable to, at least he can either get a buyer for the building or a tenant to come in and
Well, it just
spruce
made
up.
me think of like what you were saying is, you've got a smoke shop down below, can you have an apartment up above? And we don't have anything like that where we would allow that, but they do allow it in Walled Lake.
I think that is that Walled Lake or Commerce there?
Well, I'm thinking of
Walled
the
Lake one.
uh,
The ones off of
Ambrose.
Maple? Off of Maple, east of Benstein, going down towards like Ladd.
That's
or
Walled Lake.
maybe
That's
Benstein.
Walled Lake, yeah.
It's east of
But,
Ladd.
know just what you're talking about, though, like
Mm-hmm.
the concept.
But multi-use
Conceptually,
would-
that gives opportunities.
Would
for
multi-use allow you to do something like that? I don't think so.
We would have to determine if it meets the high-intensity use standard.
No, what I meant was an apartment above
Shop or
C1 or
something?
whatever. I mean, a
Retail.
multi-use would allow you to have two different things on the same lot?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. Anyway, there's an idea.
Thank you, by the
Thank
way,
you,
Mr.
yes.
Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for giving us a chance.
Yeah, thank you
Sam.
guys. Any more discussion? Okay, that brings us to liaison reports, council.
Oh, geez. Didn't bring any of my notes.
No problem. Oh, that would
Well, we're
bring-
moving forward with chickens, all right?
I saw that.
Oh, good.
Approve the chicken ordinance.
Excellent.
and
I told
fees.
my daughter that because she has chickens in Florida, or in Texas, and she said all her chickens died.
Oh, bummer.
And I said, well, what happened? She
All
said,
right.
the
They're moving
dog
forward.
got in there.
We're moving forward with the Wolverine Drive ditch enclosure down by Wolverine Drive in the corner of the lake down there, Petty Lake. I think they just started, what, last week, Tab? 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
What is it?
They're closing the
They're
ditch.
closing the culvert, putting culverts in there, and filling them in.
On Wolverine Lake Drive.
Okay.
See, what else was there?
Did they ever clean up on was it Wolverine Drive, that there was all the construction materials left
That's
over?
part of the ditch enclosure.
That's
so
part of the
it's-
ditch enclosure.
That's part of the,
Yeah,
that's part of that same
going on.
project.
Geez, I don't know, probably a handful of other things.
You guys did the Citizen of the Year,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
so that'll be awarded next meeting.
And we
I get the feeling it wasn't Tabitha,
No.
Who's that? No.
just the way you
She's not
said
eligible.
it.
Not eligible.
Maybe next year.
Marion is
Yeah.
gonna be awarded.
And that's the guy that took care of the, that created that little angle park down off of McCoy and Lakeview.
Yes.
Yep.
I know
So,
the property kind of angle.
yeah, and then, let's see, we also approved to have Mr. Malik, Bob Malik, put on the Clifford Cottrell Memorial, so.
Nice. Yeah, he's excellent.
And we're going to be going through the zoning ordinance, finally approval of the, we actually did approve the hot tub
Hot tubs.
stuff last week, or last month
Fantastic.
too.
You guys are making,
So that's all finally done and
wow,
off.
you guys are making some progress, for sure.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Anything else, Mr.
Probably, but
Vedro?
I'll bring my better notes next month.
Okey-doke, that brings us to Parks
Sorry.
and Rec. Mr. Lindman?
Yeah, last Saturday, we had our annual Easter Bunny Lunch. It was sold out, a great event. We had to
Nice.
do the Easter egg hunt in the snow, but other than that, it was okay. All went out without a hitch. We're well along with planning all the events for the year. We've got all our Tuesdays in the park scheduled and all the equipment reserved and all that set up. Already had our first working meeting for corn roast, believe it or not. There's a lot to go for that. We're trying to figure out a way to still do a cornhole tournament like we did last year, because Kaya provided all the boards and sponsored us, and they're kind of no longer in business. So we're trying to figure out a plan B to still keep a cornhole tournament going, because it seemed to be very well received.
How
And
many
some-
boards do you need? Do you need boards? Is that what you're needing?
Yeah, we had, I think, 8 sets last year.
That might be a whole lot of them in the basement.
Yeah, that's what we've been trying to see if we can get a hold of, but, yep, moving forward with with that and all our other usual events.
Okay.
The buses are all gone now, right?
Yeah,
Too
those
bad, 'cause
just
those
don't-
were fun,
yeah,
some of those trips.
the money dried up and it just wasn't financially viable to keep that going, as expensive as buses are.
Well, they used to be provided,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we looked at it, couldn't make that work.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lindman, and that brings us to ZBA, Mr. Thorne.
Yeah, it was a really quick meeting. Just somebody came in to get their deck extended, but then found out that they were just gonna reposition the whole house, so that nothing ended up happening. That was it.
It doesn't seem like the easy way
Yeah.
to do it, but, okay, Water Management Board, Mr. Snyder is not here. That brings us to any announcements?
Yeah, I guess one other thing I forgot,
Okay.
which was Dave Dumont resigned from council
Hmm,
a couple months ago, and we filled the position with Aaron Newman from ZBA. So
wow,
he was appointed.
nice move.
I heard that.
Other than that,
Okey-doke, I would love to hear a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Lindman, seconded by Thorne. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you for your time, everybody. Appreciate it.